to another podcast, another blog from the book of Ephesians. Welcome to beyoungministry.blogspot.com from the palatial studios of my house here in Elgin, South Carolina. I want to give a shout out to a few groups of people. When I look at the analytics of these podcasts and this blog spot, it's amazing the places that people are accessing the results of this ministry, or the products of this ministry, I should say. We have people in the Ukraine, Russia, Germany. We have people in Portugal. And then we have one from an unidentifiable region. And I just want to say hello to all of you people who are in other lands other than the United States of America. It's fascinating to me that people on the other side of the world are accessing these podcasts and these blog spots. Just tremendous. Tremendous to me. And if I could help any of y'all, don't hesitate to shoot me an email at beyoungministry@gmail.com. But today we continue in Ephesians chapter 1. This is one of two prayers that Paul prays in the book of Ephesians on behalf of these believers in Ephesus. But we're in chapter 1 at the end of the chapter, verses 18 through 23, which reads, I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people, and his incomparably great power for us who believe. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly realms, far above all rule, authority, power, and dominion, and every name that is invoked, not only in the present age, but also in the one to come. And God placed all things under his feet and appointed him to be head over everything for the church, which is his body, the fullness of him who fills everything in every way. That's Ephesians chapter 1, verses 18 through 23. Today we come to the remainder of the first prayer that Paul prays for the believers in Ephesus. He prays that the eyes of the believer's heart may be enlightened. Of course, here he's speaking metaphorically about the eyes of our hearts, but theologically he's spot on. God makes a big deal out of faith, because faith is the ability of the heart to see God. The word enlightened here is crucial to understand. The Greek word used here is the word from which we get our word photo. I've always admired people who have a photographic memory. They see it once and boom, they've got it. I admire these people because I, like so many people, have a bad memory. Perhaps this is why the Lord commands us to remember some 166 times in the Bible. In fact, I attend a church that does the Lord's Supper every Sunday, and it's my favorite meeting. For an hour we sit there and we wait on the Lord to lead us in our worship of him, and we remember the Lord. Remember is such a pivotal word, because when we forget, we end up being like Simba out there in the wilderness, not living according to our identity. If you've seen the movie Lion King, which I did many times with my oldest sons when they were children. Paul is praying that we will have a heart that doesn't forget these truths about God, so that we will hope. Hope is a big thing. Napoleon once said, hope is the product of the leader. He said, leaders are dealers in hope. This hope, as Paul describes in our passage, is powerful. Of course, the product of the power isn't the same of what we think it should be. No, it changes hearts. It does what humans can't do. This hope is powerful, as Paul points out in verses 19 through 21. This powerful hope culminates in the glorification of Jesus Christ. This powerful hope will result in everything putting the spotlight on Jesus as God. This enlightenment is of utmost importance because it enables us to experience the resurrected life Jesus died to give us. Following Jesus is the product of the engagement of our hearts with a real person who has overcome and conquered sin and death. Following him is to be defined by him. And this definition renders to us a hope that is so powerful that it overcomes all that would prevent us from his calling on our lives. The cross of Jesus Christ is what mankind did to Jesus. He not only took on sin and death, he rendered the shame helpless in our lives. We're told in many passages that he took on our shame. Our shame has a greater impact on us than we know. And freedom from this shame renders to us and in us the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people. He rose from the grave to reveal to us himself eternal life. Because eternal life is him. The very breath we breathe came from him. The wind and outside, the currents came from him. He is life. And so he rose from the dead so that we would experience him who is life eternal. I find it interesting that the first to see him after he rose from the dead was Mary Magdalene. He appeared first to this woman who had been delivered from much. Her reputation before she met Jesus was not all that sterling. He appeared to her first because she was one of the most marginalized people. God does that. He loves the marginalized. He appeared to Mary first because she was the worst. I understand her worst position and condition, because that's me. And people who don't get the fact that they're the worst have a problem with pride. And God, he rushes to humility. He rushes to those who have been broken. When our hearts grasp this, the power that is accessed is enough to raise us to a new life that renders to Jesus authentic glory. Such was the case for Thomas. Jesus left him in his doubt for 8 days. When Jesus appeared to Thomas and he placated to his demands, Jesus invited the doubter to touch his nail prints. We are more blessed than Thomas because blessed are those who believe even though they haven't seen with their eyes, like Thomas. Jesus is constantly revealing himself to you and to me, personally, day by day. The question is this: will we be enlightened enough to see him with our hearts? And when we do, we will transcend. And we will have the perspective of him who is seated at the right hand of God in the heavenly realms. My friends, I trust this podcast, this blog, is helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. If you have any questions, comments, or if you'd just like somebody to listen, you can shoot me an email at beyoungministry@gmail.com. Hey, have a great day.